I'll tell you right now, the stuff I'm saying should be shaking you to the core. Subject lines are processed subliminally, deliberately by us. We choose to do it. Subliminal advertising is not allowed anywhere in the world deliberately. It's not allowed because it's so powerful. Every subject line is a subliminal ad. Every single one. Every single one. We process it in a blink. And in that blink, we decide, oh, I know that brand. It's a from. I've signed up or I didn't unsign. I'm not going to unsign. I don't need to do this. It's in the spam folder. It shouldn't be there. Oh, da 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 da. In a microsecond. We make all of those decisions in a microsecond.
Welcome to the Making Sense of MarTech podcast, where we interview leaders and put them in the hot seat. I'm Jacqueline Friedman, founder of Monarch and global head of advisory for the MarTech Weekly. Today, we're talking about the overlooked backbone of digital marketing, your inbox. Today, we're with strategic advisor Dela Quist, and we're going to dig into why email isn't just messaging, it's data. Data platforms like Google and Meta are quietly profiting from your own data. So let's unpack why your campaigns are fueling someone else's machine and what you can do about it. And so to help us make some sense and who's been warning us about all of these things for years, Dela, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jacqueline. It's like, I have to say, I've been really looking forward to this as well. And when you sent me the questions, I had to sort of sit up. I was like, oh my God, I have to bring my best game with me because I think you kind of understood what I was really saying. And most people skip through articles and posts, and you'd clearly read it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it, to the discussion, to be honest.
Right back at you. And for those who aren't aware, Dela wrote an incredible piece that we're really going to dive into today that immediately I was like, we have to have this conversation on the podcast because no one else is thinking like this. And so really excited to get started. But first, I want to formally introduce you. Dela is a strategic advisor and the founder of Alchemy Works. He's an email marketing veteran with more than 20,000 hours logged in the trenches of deliverability, subject lines, and audience behavior. And he spent years flipping the script on how brands treat their email programs, turning what's often seen as a tactical tool into a strategic asset. Alrighty, I'm excited to dive in. So first up, we've got our rapid fire round with 5 quick hits. So what was your first MarTech platform?
I've never really used a MarTech platform. In fact, I was proud of doing so. A few years ago, when I was running the agency, I pointed out that I'd never actually hit send on an email outside of personal. And so one day someone called me into like an office and said, Dela, come here and just hit that button. So I pressed the button and it was hitting send on the campaign. So that's the only MarTech stuff I've done. Having said that, and I've deliberately done that. As soon as you start using a tool, your brain becomes tramlined by that tool and how it works, and you like it or you don't like it, and it makes it hard for you to use another one and have an open mind. And I'm trying to think strategically. The tools that change my life, I would say search. And I don't mean search as in Gmail as such. I mean inbox search and your hard drive search. Okay? Because growing up, I'm a very disorganized person. And I found that in the hierarchy of office working and company hierarchy and everything else, organized people could beat. Well, let's put it this way. All things being equal, an organized person will get promoted faster than a disorganized person just because of the way their desk looks, for example, and being able to find stuff. And I'm like, why should finding stuff be a skill? So search just changed my life in an instant. And it's kind of one of the reasons why, and I kept everything in my inbox. And that's kind of why I've literally almost never deleted an email in my life. So I have personal experience and I started really early.
That makes sense. So are you an inbox 0 person?
No, I'm an inbox like 10 million person. And by the way, inbox 0 is such a rare, inbox 0 is right at one end of the bell curve. Where I am is right at the end of, most people just don't give a damn and on average have tens of thousands of emails in their inbox and at least 30 days worth on a side riff. And if it wasn't that, think about it. Why do all the inbox providers only delete spam after 30 days? Why don't they do it in a day or a minute or a year or 2 years, right? I just look at stuff like that and I go, they know, right? There's a reason. And it's about, I would think that most people keep emails in their inbox for about 30 days or like me, 30 years. It doesn't really matter.
What is your biggest email marketing pet peeve?
Rates, period. Anything with a rate in it. Open rate, click rate, thingy to something else rate. They
I will
just
say
drive
unsub
me
rate
nuts.
is important,
No,
but
unsub numbers matter. And by the way, rate is, here's another reason. That's an exception that proves my rule. Okay.
I'm always going to look for the corner case. All right, last question in our rapid fire. Who is someone you admire, either professionally or personally?
Quick answer to that. I focus on respect rather than admire. Okay. People I respect. And I would say in this space, thinking email and focusing on it, Ben Chestnut, one of the co-founders of MailChimp.
All right, I would like to set the stage and really dive into the truth about your email and your email's inbox. We've been told this story that the consumer email is free, it's unprofitable, it's just generic, everyone has it, but that's a strategic smokescreen. And in reality, it's the age old adage of the product is free, you're the product, and you outright say it by nearly saying every email trains the ads platform's AI. Your campaigns generate intent, which platforms then auction back to you. It's a very bleak reality that I find deeply, deeply unsettling. And I'd like to go even deeper with you. So, you've written the inbox isn't a cost center, it's the most valuable behavioral data layer in digital marketing. Let's unpack that together.
I'm going to go back a little in history. And earlier on, when we were talking before this, I was telling you, like, you're just fortunate about timing, right? Age, timing, my background, my knowledge, it all just comes together. And plus, now time to think about stuff. I'm not running a company anymore and stuff. So let's go back to the beginning. I was there at the beginning when Al Gore and folks were talking about the information superhighway, right? I was sitting there right in the middle of business and publishing and talking about that. Now, email right from the get-go was on everybody's agenda, okay? So it was seen as an extension of the Royal Mail or United States USPS, right? That's what it was seen as. It's a legal right of everyone to have an address and have something delivered to them. The magic of the digital thing was still like, oh yeah, duh, right? Remember, like in 1998, we had no idea of what today would be like, but we still had this idea that we were going to digitize everything. And at the time, it was seen as so valuable. There was a big news story. Sweden decreed that they were going to give an email inbox to every Swedish citizen.
Wow.
Okay. And they were going to pay for it. And it was going to be infrastructural. And every government was jumping on the bandwagon. And the UK said, oh, I know what, let's get tenders. So they were inviting tenders from IBM and ICL, which then became Fujitsu in the UK, and various other big tech companies to come and build a state-of-the-art $100 billion, whatever it is, email system for kids.
Sounds
right?
a little familiar right now.
Yeah.
It's as if history rhymes.
It always does, which is why being old helps. Okay, you kind of remember I've seen this before. But then Hotmail happened, and Hotmail completely destroyed that business model. Okay.
Right.
And at the time, all the telcos were trying to make email inboxes things that they could charge for as part of the telco package and everything else. And Hotmail blew that away completely.
That makes
And
sense.
so that will change. So now suddenly it's like eyeballs. And so everybody was focusing on eyeballs. And the whole original model was eyeballs. And everyone knows, yeah, your website is a cost, but you pay for it with eyeballs. So email was in that same thing. Then Google happened. Now, Google got it. And Google, I think, ultimately are probably, apart from MailChimp, are the only people who really understood what email is about. That's my view. And they understood because of the algorithm and what they were doing and how they were selling search and how they were packaging search and learning about behavior. They were also super early into AI and LLMs. I don't know if you remember, but Google gave away, we used to call it in the UK, directory inquiries. When you called up, right, you asked for an address or who someone lived, Google gave it away for free. You used to have to pay.
What?
In the whole of the US. Right?
I didn't know
Google
that.
just took it
That's
on. And why? So
terrifying.
language training.
Ah.
Right? So someone at 3 a.m, drunk, picking up the phone, can you take me? Wait, yeah, they would just figure it all out and they used it for language training.
Interesting.
And maps, same thing. These guys are not stupid, right? So they do all of this.
They're very smart.
So when Gmail came out and they offered a gigabyte, you have to understand people were talking about megabytes before that.
Right.
Why would you do that? Now, at the time, I didn't really get it. I saw it was still eyeballs. And so it's only like you learn and you figure out what's going on afterwards. And it's only when I then moved into email and I spent 20 years running an email agency and looking at email data and figuring out what people did in the inbox. and understanding how hard it was and fighting against how dare these guys use deliverability to stop me, a legitimate brand, sending a legitimate legal email to my customer, right? And so I was very apparently anti-deliverability, but I wasn't. I was just anti our right to send to our own customers. And when I started writing recently in a more pro way, it's because providers have been backed into a legal corner where if they accept responsibility for the message going in, the legal implications are too big. And I'm really simplifying this. So everybody is saying, whoa, the subscriber's deciding, right?
Yep.
And effectively, they've said, we'll deliver anything apart from if it breaks the spam rate law. It's kind of a myth that we are inundated with spam and whatever it is. If it was truly the case, our inboxes would be inoperable, and they're not. Now, so I take my hat off to the providers for getting to that place, but they could also have done it if they had licensed or recognized, which they can, because how do they know about domain reputation? How do they know that Walmart is Walmart, right? So when Walmart sends an email, why are they putting them at the same level of strictness as spammer from a random place in China selling something ugly, right? I mean, how hard is it? Okay.
I mean, there are a lot of bad actors and abuse. So it is a very tricky challenge. Not to say I don't disagree with you, but
that's not the point about it. Is
yeah.
That's how you make people believe that this inbox is such a miraculously difficult, wonderful service that they provide that you
Fair.
overlook what it really does. Okay. And that's what I mean. Is I suddenly thought,
Yeah.
why would they give you a gigabyte? That was more than most people's entire hard drives.
Yeah.
Okay. Back in the day, they wanted your data. They were saying don't ever delete an email. They began to see that people went back to a 3-year-old email and clicked and bought
That's
something.
why archive exists instead of just delete.
They don't like deleting. Now, why would they do that if it was so costly, right? It's because the benefit. Now, I'm probably jumping ahead. So how do I say, okay, like, how does it translate to things like search? Okay, intent, right?
That intent data and behavioral data.
Exactly, from things that you couldn't necessarily predict. Does that make sense? So for you to find a search term, you have to go to Google, right? So Google has to be the biggest front of mind brand in anybody's for search, and they had to pay billions of dollars to be in Netscape and every other Outlook. They paid billions to be there. Why? Okay, simply because they have to pay for you to search. Now, with email, every email you send drives people to search, right? Whether deliberately or go into the browser window and type the search in, okay? It does. I can show it to you. I can show you spike in sales from people who received an email but didn't open it 2 hours after they got the email and they randomly went to the website and bought something, or they randomly went into the store. I mean, please. Marketing is about saying this isn't random at all. We make you do that. And that's how I began to understand that the email's making people do things. And I understood more than 10 years ago, probably 15 years ago, that the biggest driver to search was Gmail, right? And the reason I know that is because all my customers had the biggest visits to their website on the day they sent an email to their entire list.
That makes sense. So if we're talking about misunderstandings, what else do brands misunderstand about the long-term value of their own subscriber list?
Oh, where do I begin?
At the beginning and then finish at the end.
I think nobody gets email, right? Very few people do. There are two reasons. So first of all, they immediately conflate personal email with commercial email, right? They act as if we are physically incapable of telling the difference between an email from our mom and an email from someone else, and we treat them with exactly the same amount of love and hatred and everything else. Nonsense, right? So first thing is separate the two. And you understand one is just to make my life easier, and the other one is between me and my mom and everything else. And only an idiot can't tell the difference between the two. The second thing is cost. Right? We allow this idea, and it's really weird. And I know you could be all tinfoil hat about it and conspiratorial, but it's really weird. The cheapest channel that existed, in fact, I'll go further. I would go, email is the cheapest channel that has ever existed and ever will exist. Okay? We're talking about 30 cents, 10 cents, 5 cents, 1,000 people to send a piece of creative that probably cost you $600, even if you spent $1 million on it, right? Like you did a TV commercial. It's just crazy. And many years ago, when I first started out in email and I was being really evangelistic about it because everyone thought email, oh, it's yucky, I hate it, oh, it's spam. I used to say that even on the Sermon on the Mount costs more because it cost 5 loaves and 2 fishes to reach 10,000 people. I can do it for a tiny fraction of that amount in email, right? So reach and frequency, bingo, it's all there for you, right? So they just don't understand this. And the other thing is the only way of reaching these people is to pay someone.
Yeah.
So you have them at 10 cents a thousand, right? And you'll pay $25 a click for the word car insurance tomorrow, right? And it's someone you already have their email address, right?
That's where, for me, it's the acquisition versus retention tension. And no one focuses on the retention piece because that's the most important and hardest part, versus acquisition is not hard. It just is costly.
Well, that's the whole thing. Email is your biggest acquisition platform. Get over it. So here's another thing, another way of looking at email. Let's say you have a list of 1 million people, right? Or 100,000, doesn't matter. Or 10,000 if you're in B2B, okay? What fraction of Google's customer base or Facebook or TikTok is that? It's nothing. It's meaningless, right? You're unimportant, okay? Now take that number and say, what percentage is that number of the total people who might buy my product?
Right.
Right? Now you're talking about a different thing. Now say who might buy my product and actually opted in to hear from me. Okay?
Even smaller.
You are now talking about your media is actually the same as maybe being the top program for history documentaries on Netflix. Does that get what I mean? You don't have to be bigger than everything else on Netflix. You just have to be in the history documentary slot,
you have
right?
to be
and
in your
own
niche.
that.
Yeah.
And then now imagine what you have to pay to get to those people. If you were stupid enough to go to Netflix and say, I want to target people who only watch the history, they will charge you rate card. But if you just sit around and don't really care, just give me untargeted crap, then they'll send you there because no one wants to buy that, right? But it's the same people. Customer match all works that way, right? So that's another thing that people don't understand. It's just crazy that they actually have whole departments spending tens of millions of dollars.
Or hundreds, depending on where you work.
Or hundreds, depending on where you work, to reach people whose email address they have.
It is baffling to me that people don't recognize their email list or just generally their company-wide data is their capital. That is their
and then capital. Add the word first party to all of this, and suddenly, so that's what I mean is where do I begin? I mean, ultimately, this is the thing about it. Anybody who really utilizes the email channel properly must, by definition, they can't not do it, spend less on search. Take it from there.
There we go. All right.
So, and media in general.
Yeah. Building off this, you're, of course, arguing that email isn't just engagement, but intention generation. And you've already alluded to this. So how is this currently maybe being misused or worse, harvested by others?
I'm going to be slightly tongue-in-cheek. I think people are being too stupid to misuse it. They just don't know what they're doing, right? And I'm just telling you now, the only people who do know are not telling you about it, right?
They're gatekeeping it, yeah.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Here's the big secret, right? The big secret just isn't about email, okay? Well, it is actually about email, and it's why it doesn't bleed into email. It's about accepting that impressions and advertising works. Right? Why do you think there's a thing, half of my advertising works, but I don't know which bit, and yet we spend more and more on advertising, right?
Don't get me started on attribution.
Yeah, we could have a whole call on that, right? There's a whole vested industry, and I don't mean this in a bad way. It's not conspiratorial, but it just doesn't make sense for anybody to actually admit that advertising makes a difference. So let me take it back to the old days. The reason we were able to, and still are able to, up to a point, to advertise tobacco, alcohol, and things like that is because we put the billboard up there and go, hey, you chose to look at it, you chose to do something about it. And I put a disclaimer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can't touch me on that. Now, with email, I'm sending you a message, not putting something that you accidentally saw. I'm actually going, I see it and I sent you an email.
Yep.
And then it says, I know how you behave, and I can actually exploit that and make you behave in a different way. It's much easier to track that in email than any other channel.
That's true. Well, I'm going to push you on that, though.
Go on.
You're saying that email behavior is the most trackable. However, the metrics that we typically know as vanity metrics or signals are no longer as accurate as they ever once potentially were. What do you recommend then? If that's the most important component of email being the best channel, yet we can't actually trust the data.
That's not true at all. The opposite is true. And I'll probably answer your cookie question at the same time. Okay. Because it's kind of, it's just the most auditable thing that exists. It's so auditable, it's not true. And I think that's kind of what it is. They know exactly, I would know. And my advice to everybody is they're using the same signal. So let's go back to it. Every time you send an email, the message is the subject line. Forget whether they opened it or not to answer your question. It doesn't matter. You have a time-stamped brand impression to a unique individual with a totally unique UID that you know and you can connect with every other part of your CRM, for whom every downstream activity comes with an additional timestamp and log. Give you an example. I send an email, the person didn't open, they showed up at my website. Bingo. Timestamp, log, I know exactly who they are. How do I know? Because I got an automation that triggered and said browser banned, and boom, there you go. You add those two things together. Let's say, for the sake of argument, someone got an email at 3 a.m, didn't open it, and then comes back and opens it the next morning, does nothing, and then the next day at 3 a.m, they go back, open and make a purchase. What does it tell you about that person? Okay, what if they looked at the email 4 times, didn't make a purchase, and popped into your bricks and mortar store and bought $1,000 worth of stuff, right? This is what we pray for, okay? You cannot get this in any other channel. Anybody who says they can do that is lying. I've been able to do that with email for over a decade. And the only thing stopping me, lack of computing power, which is why AI has brought me to this place, so I can actually talk about it. It's now a realistic prospect. And the second thing is lack of people to ask me the questions like you have and get it, right? And be able to take the robust pushback, because I will, and it's fun, and it's, we're having fun as we're doing it.
It's banter.
Absolutely. It's really good banter. So that's kind of the way I look at it. I'm like, this is just obvious, because I can count. If I sent just my logo to every one of my million customers, right?
That'd be kind of a lame email.
It will probably beat every email you've ever sent, but you can only do it once, okay? And it will certainly beat the best targeting you ever did to your best 500 customers with a VIP offer to do X, Y, and Z. It will beat it hands down. That's why OOOs work. That's why OOPs work. That's why a letter from the CEO works. Anything different actually works. But that only happens when you have set a really good, and I'm coming back to the point, cadence that's recognized by the inbox and your subscriber.
Yeah, because that trust has been built.
And you don't change that trust. A newspaper comes out daily at the same time in the same way for a reason, right? It's an expectation. They also make sure that they have a bit of sport, a bit of fashion, a bit of this, news at the front, this at the back, you know what I mean? So everybody knows where it's at. It's kind of publishing. So if brands acted like publishers first, right, that's the start. If they then, and this is the clever bit, suddenly realize that they now have the data that Google uses, and it's the only channel where they do, they can start acting that way and start saying, okay, I've realized that when I send 3 emails, right, people visit my website 50% more. Or when I mention this in my subject line, okay, my average order value goes up, right? If someone sees 3 of this and not that, or if they see the high price first and then the lower price, they're more likely to buy. That's what you would do if you knew everything. And what I'm saying is, you do know everything, you're just not looking.
That's very fair.
It's been driving me nuts for years, and I'm only just getting to the place where I actually have the language and the time to try and articulate this point. And you'll notice I'm now slowing down, et cetera, because I've done the passionate stuff. I'm sort of saying this is actually a really serious point.
Oh, it's more
It's a
philosophical
huge opportunity
than anything else, for
Yes.
sure.
But
Well,
it's also practical, because
it is.
if I said to you, oh, look, I'll come in and do an audit of your campaigns, right? And it'll take me about 4 weeks, and I'm going to charge you $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to come and tell you to send more email, right?
The irony is one, I don't charge quite that much, and two, I definitely don't say that.
Well, I kind of do. I say, listen, send more email, but don't be stupid. Hashtag DBS. I used to say hashtag don't be stupid, but I now say hashtag do be smart, because for some reason people prefer do be smart than don't be stupid.
I wonder why.
So what does DBS mean? It means if I say leave the building, there's the fire alarm's going, don't say I'll die if I jump out of the 10th floor window. That's stupid, right? Or it's not smart. What you do is say, oh, let's find the fire escape and walk down calmly. So if I say send more email, right, don't go and find the worst email you could possibly send and then pick the worst customers who've not engaged with you and then send it 50 times and go, I told you, right? That's just not so sure. What you do is say, how would I do this? And I say one email at a time. So if you set up a happy birthday automation, right, that means 365th of your list gets an extra email on that day, right? If you do purchase anniversary, that means someone gets one more email on that day, right? And actually, all of those are smarter and smarter. And one of my favorite stories is, this is going back quite a long time. It was Valentine's Day, and it was an Atlanta chocolate store. And back in the day, they were a Silver Pop customer, showing how long ago it was.
Throwing us back.
And on Valentine's Day, they sent 24 emails in 24 hours.
Oof. Ouch.
Why would you say that? You see, everyone automatically grimaces with anything with email. Let me tell you what I saw, right? Here's the thing. First of all, it was the best email they had ever sent by a country mile, right? It was so far and away the best that I think they did it the following year, okay? Now, What do? What they did is said, if someone bought, stop, right? If someone opened 4 times and didn't do this, they sat down and figured out all the common sense stuff, right? And if you got all 24, it's probably because you didn't open any of them, right? But it was relevant on the hour. And so if you didn't open all of them, sure, it's in your inbox and blah, 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 but you would understand because they probably told you and said, we're having 24 emails in 24 hours. If you want to opt out, opt out. How hard is that, right? So when I say send more email or whatever it is, or if I engage with a client or I'm speaking to them, I just say common sense. This is the goal, right? The goal is everybody on your list must get at least one email a week, preferably the same one. No segmentation, nothing. Second and third, you
now
can add
that is a hot take right there.
Yeah. Okay. Why do I say that? Where's your benchmark, right? If you don't have a benchmark where you can understand how the same message works differently from very good customers and very bad customers and people who do this and people who don't do that, or all of those sorts of things, and you try and A/B test and everything else, you learn nothing. And most people learn nothing in email. So it's actually your benchmark. Give you a good example, active customer, best customers. What do most people do? Subject line test, A/B test. They will go and A/B test their subject line or their creative on their most active best customer list and then run it against the unengaged. How stupid is that? They're completely different people. Okay. Yep. And what you should be doing is looking at the unengaged people. And that's why the one email to everybody, because one week and another, you're saying, I'm sending it to everyone. And some weeks it's more tilted towards your active customers. One week it's inactive. One, it's just, oh my God, we had to send out a product announcement or a this or a that. Over time, you look for the spikes in the unengaged file, right? Mm-hmm. Because every unengaged person becomes engaged. And as soon as they become engaged, okay, they become somewhere between 7 and 50 times more valuable, right? So someone who's opened in the last 30 days is between 7 and 50 times more valuable than someone who hasn't opened in the last 30 days.
I have to push back a little bit.
It's true. Go and ask anybody. Almost every single agency brand out there and everyone who's paying to use MailChimp or whatever, active subscribers, right? They all pick 30, 60, 90 days for opens, and they pick
Yep.
90, 122 years for clicks, right? And they set that, and that's what they call engaged or not.
Yeah.
And I'm saying you don't do that. But what you do is you look and see when someone who hasn't opened for a year suddenly opens, I want to know what that subject line was, right?
That's fair. You're advocating for better analysis on your long tail data than anything else because you want to see what the aha moment was.
Okay. No, more than that. If I was to value the list, let's say for the sake of argument, I got 10 opens, okay, from my unengaged list out of 100 or whatever it is, or 2%. So let's say I got 20 opens out of 1,000 or something like that, 2%, those 20 people go in. The revenue per email, if you choose that, it's a rate, that's why I don't like it, but a lot of people use it. The revenue per email grows by between 7 and 50 times from people who opened an email in the previous 30 days. It's just so much so that some people don't even mail anyone after 30 or 60 days. They go, oh, it's not worth doing it. So I value each engaged person as 30x, not a 2% click rate, not a 2% open rate, not an average order value of half of what the engaged is. I'm saying I've got 20 new people who've suddenly gone up in value 7 to 50 times. That's what I'm looking at. 38 times ROI, spending on emails, 38 times ROI. I can send you any number of studies from MailChimp, from any big agency you like. They all say emails 38% ROI. Do you know the only thing that's 38% ROI? Fluoride in water. How weird is that? And that makes me think both numbers are fake, right? So 38, how weird is that? It's just such a, and how can that number persist without changing for 25 years? So, but I'm saying, I know, and MailChimp did a fantastic survey of all their data, and they showed you the exact uplift of someone opening an email from being inactive. So the biggest number you have is the people who've done nothing. 0 is your biggest number on every list. 1 is the next biggest, 2, blah, 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 but it shrinks really small. By the time you get to 5 purchases, it's like your mom, right?
Yep.
But we act like there's anybody could be your mom, but they can't, right? Going down narrow very, very quickly. So the biggest number is 0 to 1, 1 to 2 is the next biggest, and blah, blah, blah. But we all spend all our time on 1 to 2, 2 to 3, because they're in the funnel, we know what they're doing, okay? I'm going, I will just deliver you once, okay? I have more of them than you will ever have, okay? The ones are 60% of your list is not done anything in the last 12 months, right? 1% of your list are your most active customers who buy every week. And in that, I am more likely to find people that look like that in my list than you are to make them move from 5 to 6 and 6 to 7 and 7 to 10. But it doesn't look clever because rates change at the bottom of the funnel, numbers change at the top of the funnel. So what I'm trying to say to you is that everybody should focus on their inactive as their number one primary source. And they should actually never use tests for the actives on the inactive. They wouldn't do it the other way around. They wouldn't run a test on their worst customers and then say, send it out. So don't do it the other way around. By sending out the same email to everybody once a week, you see, I can do the weave and come back again. Once a week, what you're basically doing is you're setting a baseline and you're saying, I said this to everyone. This week, the actives were really, really good. That tells you something. Oh, this is a good subject line for actives. I'll remember that, right? Another week will be inactives, and you go, oh, this is a really good one for inactives, and you can do something with that. And over time, you build a knowledge of what actually makes your list move from 0 to 1. That's my big thing. What I've found is the biggest single thing is just a change. You set a rhythm, okay? So you send a weekly email. Everyone gets the weekly email.
That's your
metronome. And then once a quarter or every 2 weeks, you make it a short subject line instead of your regular one. Or another week, you make it a long one. Or you put the word unicorn and you've never used the word unicorn in the subject line. Do you get what I mean? Or you send a letter from the CMO, right? You just, every once in a while, you just throw something random in and it's like, oh, what are they doing?
It's kind of like writing. No one wants to read the same rhythm of sentences. You need to have diversity of sentences and structures in order to be engaging.
Yes, I like that.
And so it's basically the same,
but
except
also,
for...
The other thing about writing is it's hard to be prolific without being repetitive. In fact, it's impossible, right? Name anyone who's written 10 books and I'll tell you they're repetitive. They have a formula. You cannot not be, you just can't.
Correct. But
So the formula is important, and then you build. So that's
you have to have your variance. And actually, that's where segmentation and AI can be really powerful, is helping
yes,
you with those
but
variables.
it's not the primary, it comes off, right?
Right.
So as soon as I trigger a new behavior, what happens if someone hasn't opened an email for a year and they open an email? What happens? They immediately go into oh, hello, welcome back. That's what your job is, right? And when they do that, they get to a certain point, and if they do this, they go there and maybe go back to the old list, or they stay here for a bit. I mean, that's the job. But the
Yeah.
biggest driver of behavior, and it's going back to where I started from originally, is the impression, right? The
Right.
fact that an email came from you, I know that at least I didn't unsubscribe, whether I remember whether I subscribed or not. You're a familiar brand. You've been in my inbox at least once a week, up to 3 times a week. I almost don't see you, but I process every email that I get, right?
Right.
And those emails come in. And over time, if I said to you, I'm going to do 3 tweets a week, okay? That's 156 tweets over the year. Would you wake up every morning and start from scratch? No, you wouldn't. You'd sit down and say, oh, let me plan this out. I'm going to do holiday season. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And why do we do that in email subject lines? Every email has to be perfect on the day it was sent, like rather than saying I'm telling a story. So I look at it over time and say, oh, we've got 150 emails. You can't make a mistake. If you do a bad subject line this week, you can fix it over the next 3 weeks. It's just life. And you just go into a rhythm and you don't get angsty about it. But the most important thing, and this is a thing that you've alluded to and I've skirted around, every impression counts. Sending an email is the biggest driver of everything that happens. Okay. And it triggers all behavior. Gmail knows it, right? It triggers everything just the same way as a commercial on TV drives behavior. You can't say it doesn't. Geico wouldn't exist if it wasn't for TV, right? They couldn't exist. They were just a nothing brand, and they just came from
Right.
nowhere, and now they're really big because they spend billions of dollars. Yeah, whoopee.
Yeah. I hear you, because we've transitioned into really talking about the like nitty gritty of talking about tech, whether it's signal segments, AI feedback loops. I guess outside of impressions, what do you see as inbox signals that matter the most? Is it open speed, deletion lag, foldering? And how do you reconcile whichever that is with non human clicks and non human impressions that are opening or clicking?
So the answer is all of the above, right? the
Yes.
older the older the impression, the more powerful the signal. Okay, so
Tell me more.
if someone opens an email the minute they get it and
Mhm.
processes it, Gmail knows that,
So it's
right?
almost the one time, like the first
Instantaneously.
touch
Then you've got what I would
of
call an
that.
inbox zero person, right? Inbox zero, got it within an hour or two.
Guilty
I
as
know,
charged.
not me. And you just got to clear it. And that's why if you're inbox zero, you cannot not visit the spam folder. How could you live without having zero in your spam folder? And you probably do it as regularly as your regular folder, but that's another story. People,
I don't open those emails, but yes, I
no,
mark them as
unless it's
read.
in the wrong place. And by the way, we're trained to do that because
Correct.
every brand will say to you, oh, if your receipt went into, make sure you go and check. I mean, we're trained to do it by everybody. So the further away they are, the more powerful they are, right? So if
Mhm.
someone opens an email a week after it was sent, they're nearly 100% likely to make the transaction. Why would you go back to a week old email? Why would you keep a week old email? Right? So an inbox
Fair.
zero person will file it, and another person just goes in and goes and looks and says, "Oh, I'm sure I have an offer from Target somewhere," and oh, there it is, boom. So, and I've seen people open, click, and buy for an email that was sent a year ago.
Good reminder, if you migrate, you're gonna lose all of those
I
images.
I also have data that shows if you take every email and zero it back to the time of send, so whatever day, over a 5 year period, everything day zero is the time it was sent, whether it was this week, last week, a year ago, whatever it is, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 90% of opens and clicks happen within 24 hours, right?
Yep.
36 hours, okay? Only 10% of sales. It takes a week to get to 50% of sales,
Mm.
okay? And 20 or 30% of sales come from emails that were sent 21 or more days before.
Are you suggesting a new, I'd hate to say rate because you dislike it. However, are you suggesting we should be calculating send time, open time, click time, every single key metric and the time span between each, one noting which was the first action item, likely open, but then
No, just received. The first is it received.
fair. So first is
Because you
received.
can't open an email or delete it without
if it
processing
doesn't,
it.
correct, if it doesn't come into your inbox.
No, into your
But
mind. No, you
oh,
cannot delete an email that you didn't know what it was. The word ignore has willful in the definition, right? So whether I delete it or whatever it is, I have to go, what am I deleting? Oh, that's that's Target or whatever the brand is, right? Oh, what's the subject like? Oh, don't care about that because I'm not buying utensils this week. Do you see what I mean? Oh, is this safe to? No, let me save it. And you save it or you delete it. That is such powerful cognitive load that doesn't happen in any other channel. You don't do with that with billboards or TV or any other thing, but in email you actually have to physically process it. So much so that if you want to go into like really esoteric stuff and way out there,
let's go.
it's a protocol. Email is actually a protocol. The inbox
Yes.
is actually as close as possible to a representative of your mind that exists. Which brands you like, how you transact, all of those things. When you buy, how often you buy, whether you buy on the toilet, whether you buy it in your bed. Google knows all of it. Your phone knows all of it. Now, me, the sender, doesn't know to that level, but I definitely know whether you opened an email 3 times before you bought or once, if I cared. Most people don't care, right? And so what I'm saying is if you were to take this data into another channel, people would be all over it. Imagine if I could give you this on a TV ad. So your TV ad goes out and it goes out on broadcast, okay? Was the person in the room? The TV was on, I know that. But were they in the room? Were they not in the room? Did they make a cup of tea? I don't know. But let's pretend they were in the room or weren't in the room. Or let's say they weren't there. But then did they go back and watch it streaming? Right? In email, I know, but streaming, you wouldn't know. You would say, oh, well, on average, people do 5 downloads of streaming, blah, 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 whatever it is. So you're guessing all the way through. Now, if they then went into the store, because you didn't know exactly when they streamed and you couldn't tie it together and you didn't know where it was, so email is as near as damn it. The only way that you can actually know, I did this to that person at that moment. And once you know that, you can start looking at what the impact of those little micro touches are. Now, do you see why people don't spend a lot of time talking about it? Because actually, we're in a place where if ESP existed, if we could do ESP, if you could market,
you mean like psychic?
Yes, okay. if you could,
because ESP for me is email service provider.
Yes, I know. No, but what I meant, it is email service. No, what I meant is if marketers could project marketing into your brain, okay? That's what I mean.
Subliminally.
They do already. And in fact, I wrote an article saying, hey, ESP already exists, we just don't call it that, right? So basically telepathy. So it's marketing telepathy, okay? If it existed, we would have to have a mental inbox. We could not live with just everything coming at you. We just couldn't. And we'd have to folder it and have a spam folder and a this and a that. Do you get what I mean? Because it's just a protocol. Because what it is, and to answer one of your questions, because I hope we don't forget it, it's a brilliant question. Where does your list exist? It doesn't. Your list is the right to email a particular person legally at will, at your will. That's where the list resides. And that list could reside in an ESP, or you could do it manually, or you could actually walk to the people's houses and shove something through the door. You could do whatever you like, but it's the right that's your list. It's not in a place, it's not in an ESP, and it's not even in Gmail. Your list is as valid as their list. It's just theirs is bigger and yours is a subset of their list. Another way you could look at it is theirs is a subset of your list.
Yeah.
Because not everyone on your list is Gmail. They could be Yahoo or something else. Going back to what I'm saying about the value of it is that in essence, you have to look at it in that way and go, oh, okay, my list is that permission, right? And it's that legal right that no one has the ability to prevent. In most countries in the world, it's illegal to interfere with the mail.
Correct.
Which is why I found it ironic that email was able to get away with interfering with the mail. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And making decisions about who got something or didn't get it, right? And I thought about that for years and it's almost gone away. That's why I've kind of become on side with deliverability. So that's really what it is they're interfering with the right and your list is that right. And so every time you get that right, first of all, spend all your life seeking that right, business-wise. Correct. And then remember all you need to do is don't make them unsubscribe within reason. If you had kids that were 2 or 3 and you subscribed to a kid's toy thing, do you get what I mean? In theory, you should never unsubscribe because you might have grandchildren in 30 years, but you've got 30 years worth of emails to get from a kid's store to get to your
it's all about
grandchildren.
relevance.
And so it's about relevance. And then people go, not for me, I'm out. So this is the other irony. We spend all our time talking about respecting people's rights, the right to do this and the right to do that. But we don't respect their right to continue being emailed until they say so. We make a decision on their behalf. Unilaterally, we decide that they're too stupid to really understand whether they want my email or not.
I wouldn't say stupid. I would say whether or not it's
being
relevant.
No, but what does relevant mean? How do you know that? Right?
Yeah.
So we're now sitting down and playing God for 1 million individuals, right?
That is very fair.
Why? I don't play God. And it really depresses me when people do. And so they're sitting down and going, well, we'll give them what they want when it sells more stuff, right? But when it comes to being relevant, I'll decide for them because obviously I know more than them. They buy off me for a start.
Very valid. Very, very valid. And a quick word from our sponsor. Has your company gone all in on a large marketing suite but struggled to implement or see value from the investment? You're not alone. Our sponsor, High Touch, analyzed conversations with over 50 enterprise teams on large marketing suites and found that 79% report frustrations with high costs, low innovation, growing complexity, and often requiring specialized teams just to operate them. They're sharing those findings in a live webinar on February 12th, where they'll walk us through the patterns they're seeing and how some organizations are slowly updating their MarTech stacks. If this is something you've been thinking about, join the live session to get the full report. Register today at hightouch.com/suite fatigue. And now back to the episode.
Let's say, for the sake of argument, we were sending 3 emails a week. And then we sent 4 and we saw a drop off. So the first thing that will happen is, of course, your open rates will drop. It's inevitable. But what will happen is your total opens will go up. How do I know that? Because I used to be in publishing, right? So if you're in publishing and you do a monthly, okay, your readership per issue goes down if you go to weekly, but your total readership goes up by a staggering amount. That's why weeklies make more than monthlies and dailies make more than weeklies, and 24/7 UGC, the internet makes more money than everything else, right? Because the content is free to them. They can make as much, it costs them nothing to bring. So if you just understand that, then you just understand that it's about putting enough content out there for someone to say, oh, so if you put it up to 4 and then people started going, oh, that's a bit thing, improve the content, right? Change the commercial.
That's so doom and gloom, though, now that AI is part of the conversation, because you can churn out content at any speed you want.
And you're only 1 in N of your emails will be read. We also act as if every email will be read by everybody. No, it's going to be 1 in 6 or 7. That on average is how many people open, right? It's between 1 in 6 and 7, 1 in 10 at the most, right? So they're going to open 1 in 10. So you know what? You could put nothing in 9 of them and they wouldn't know. And I'm exaggerating just to make the point. I'm being deliberately provocative. Actually, what you do is you tell a story. It's a bit like Netflix, right? You put it up there and you've got 10 episodes. They may go, oh, that episode looks good. And they go to that one and they may never watch the 2 before. They may go back and watch all of them. It doesn't really matter. But if you look at it, you will know that this guy tends to open 3 emails in a row and then make a purchase. And that's called smart marketing, but it's never applied to email, okay? And that's my eternal frustration. All the things that you're talking about that people wish they could do in other channels, I've been doing for 10 years in email, right? It doesn't spill out, but as I say, maybe people listening to this will understand it. It's as much immediate, it's top and bottom, right? And all the work is at the bottom of the funnel. The top is more or less meh, whatever it is. But going back to the 4, if I sent 4 emails and I improve my content, it will go up, right? And if I said, I'm going to pick the most stupid email marketer in the world and put them alongside the smartest email marketer in the world, and then say, send one more, who do you think will get to a bigger number? The smart one, right? The stupid one will probably crash and burn at 2 or 3 because they're terrible emails. It's kind of about layering it all through, and it's consistency. It's sort of publishing, it's understanding the big numbers, and most importantly, it's looking outside of the channel. Monthly active subscribers is my go-to number. It doesn't include opens. It doesn't include clicks. It doesn't include anything, but it includes everything, right? No rates is what I mean. So what's monthly active subscribers? It's a person whose email address you have who did anything that month, right? It's the same as Facebook or anything. They're two things. How many users have they got? 12 billion. Okay, fine. Great. What's their monthly active subscribers? And they'll say another number. And you know that the total number of users is different from the monthly active subscribers. And the monthly active subscribers is the key metric, right? That's what they make their money on because that's all anyone cares about. Here's the interesting
we're the
thing.
product.
Yes. Now, if you're not an active subscriber, they mostly reach out to you via email because you're not visiting them at all, right? And they can't message you because you're not a Facebook user, so you're not going to be using their messaging. So they email you. And I get more Facebook emails than most people because I'm never on Facebook, right?
Understood.
And I don't unsubscribe. So monthly active subscribers is what it is. And it's the big key metric you should go for. So you send out your emails and you say, I want anybody who visited the website, went into the store, made a transaction, called the call center, opened an email, clicked. By the way, I include MPP because you know what MPP tells me? It was delivered. MPP guarantees it was delivered. So I count opens, not rates, okay? So I just do all of that and I say, oh, that means they're active. And especially if it's backed up by something else. So now you suddenly have that. Now, if your list size is 1 million or 100,000 and you started looking at it today, most people would currently have maybe at most 40% of their list active this month.
Valid.
At most, right? I'm being generous. It's probably going to be like 20 or something along those lines.
If you're doing good work, yeah.
Yes. So your metric is to grow your monthly active subscribers, okay? Yep. So if it was 20%, your goal next month is 22%, then 25%, then 30% to 40%.
You liking a rate? I'm very confused.
No, monthly active subsubscribers. No, I'm saying of your list.
Of course.
Yes. I'm at the 300.
Semantic.
Touche. But,
I understand that.
Yeah, so the point I'm trying to make is that's what you're trying to do, and it increases your value. And guess what? Right. In a deliverability terms, who looks better to you if you're Gmail, right? Someone who I know you've got 1 million people, but you're only mailing 5,000, right? And those are super active. And then suddenly on Black Friday, I send it to everyone. Do you look better than someone who sends to all million once a week or 3 times a week all the time? I guess not. So that's why. And you will also have more monthly active subscribers because you're constantly harvesting the pond, right? Whereas the other people, they're just not harvesting the pond and they're there and they go, oh my God, let's pay Google for some more. Let's pay media. And that's what they kind of do.
I will still always disagree. I believe in quality over quantity, but I understand and heed the point in the philosophy. I do understand it.
You see, that's a hashtag DPS argument, okay? If I offered you, which would you rather? 1 million brilliant customers or 10,000 brilliant customers? I'll take 1 million. So it's in all things being equal. Why should large always be ugly? Why? Why shouldn't your goal be, I want as many people who are prepared to tolerate an email from me as possible, because the only other way of annoying them is to pay to annoy them in another channel.
That's fair. That is fair.
We go to the final bit to overmailing. Yes, you can overmail. Do you know who we overmail? The actives.
Yes.
Right? So what happens? I'm mailing more. I start going in the inbox, the spam folder, and my open rates are going down. So I call in a deliverability expert. What's the first thing they say? Stop mailing the inactives, focus on the actives, send some more to the actives. Right?
You're not wrong.
But the actives are getting 17 emails a week already.
Right.
How are you going to send them more? Okay?
That's where you need some suppressions.
No, but now you're going to suppress. Now you're going to make no money at all. Okay, now don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is if you stop mailing, all things being equal, if you regularly send your entire list once a week and it's a regular email and Gmail knows it and everybody knows it and you send it and you have that in there and you do really clever automations and everything else, you should never have deliverability problems.
There's bad actors though, and also misinformed.
No. All things being equal, you start with a clean list of 1 million people. Let's say you push everything out. So you only have the 1 million people who opened in the last 30 days. You're lucky enough to have 1 million of them.
Yep.
You start mailing. No matter what you do, right? At the end of the year, 40% of them would not have opened one email, even though they'd opened in the last 30 days. I'll tell you right now, no matter what you do, you'll end up with 40% inactive.
Fair.
So
really, it's just a numbers game from your perspective.
Of course it is. A numbers game with common sense, right? So don't find the ugliest email you could send and beat them over the head with it, right? But when you do get deliverability problems, this is the irony. The advice is send more to your actives, which is more likely to piss them off, right? They're already on 17, now they're getting 18, 19. You've squeezed them for every penny they've got, and you're now squeezing for extra because you're not sending to anyone else. That's a bad place to be if I was an active. And you're doing to them the one thing that you're stopping your inactives, which is annoying them with your horrible emails. So your horrible emails that are not good for your inactives are suddenly beautiful, and you can send hundreds to your actives. So in my view, what actually happens is the people who actually start putting you into the spam folder are your best customers who, in your attempt to beat deliverability problems, you mail the best customers more and you stop mailing anyone else. That's I've seen it happen over and over again, right? So that's what happens. And so if you start with a clean list, you do DQ, SPF, all of that sort of stuff, no matter what you do, 40% will be unengaged by the end of the year, but they won't be blocking you. You won't be blocked. And next year, this is the other thing that's beautiful. I've done this over 3 years, okay? I took all the people who didn't open a single email, I think it was like in 2017, right? The company I was working with, 18% of their revenue came from people who didn't open a single email for the entirety of the year before, right?
Okay.
And 4% of their revenue 2 years later came from that group.
Interesting.
If you don't, you won't see it, right? And so if you say, why do I see it? It's because I'm stupid enough to care. I was also lucky enough to have an agency and pay people to do this crap for me, right? And what I mean by this crap, I mean, do you know how much data work it takes to go and look at every email that was sent to everybody and find out every interaction that everybody had with every email they had over 12 months when you send 3 a week?
Yeah. It's a lot. It's
hard. A lot. And that's why we haven't got there yet. But the beauty is it's there, right? And that's why I'm so excited now. The thing that's holding us back is I actually think that we're going to struggle to admit that we can influence behavior by sending email.
That's fair.
I see your point. Struggle with that.
I'm a little skeptical, but I see your point. And I get not only the perspective, but the numbers game component. But I guess it's just so antithetical to what I've come to know. And so I'm having to play mental gymnastics, competing the two arguments in my head. And I see the Venn diagram and the crossover. I do.
Yeah. Would I be right in thinking that the only argument you have is deliverability? That's it, period.
Not entirely for me.
If I distilled it, that's the only argument against what I say, right? If it was TV and I said to you, I can deliver you TV impressions, okay, at 10 cents 1,000, how many commercial minutes would you pay for?
A lot.
You wouldn't even think about it. It would be wall-to-wall commercials from you, right? Instantly. Because you know it works. And so the question is, what is so unique about email?
There's a lot of unique natures and things about email. It's very personal. Everyone's wanting to personalize, but it can be more personalized and tailored than any other platform.
You've been drinking the Kool-Aid, and it doesn't need
Tell
to
me
be.
more.
You're drinking the Kool-Aid. You don't sell technology, right, by making things simple, right? And so it has to be quite complicated. And the point...
Otherwise, you don't have a moat.
Exactly. So one of the things that's happened over the years, and I said deliverability, because ultimately that's the only thing that makes you behave differently in email from any other channel, all things being equal, right? It's deliverability. And I've been fighting that argument all the time. I'm saying, that's ridiculous. That's like some deliverability expert telling me, Walmart or whatever it is, how many commercials I can have on TV at any given time. I'm like, go away, right? There are rules. You have to, like, if you put a drug there, you have to say this, that, and the other, and you can't have whatever, all the rules. But once you follow those rules, do what you like, right? Mm-hmm. And if you went to an ad conference, right, where everybody there was a TV commercial, advertising, sales exec and producer and everything else, can you imagine?
Sounds like my nightmare.
But can you imagine the conference leading with how we should try and protect customers from our evil behavior.
It's less interceptable.
But the point is, the only channel that you can actually unsubscribe and enforce that removal from is the only one that bends over backwards to try and prove that it's something that everyone else doesn't have to prove. I don't get it. So
that's very fair.
If I could unsubscribe from TV, I would say, let's apply the same principles. I can't.
Speaking of, can I unsubscribe from every direct mailer because I'm not going to buy it?
You know something? You do, and you don't even know you do it. That's why spam works, right?
See, that, yes and no. That's where brand reputation for me is extremely important. I will put it on blast. Spectrum is in the States is well known for sending you a mailer every couple days, and it is always unnecessary because I will never be a customer.
You are there on the bell curve, right? Most people are in the middle, right? You're in the industry, right?
Yeah.
You are someone.
I can see through the
not just that. You know exactly what it costs to put there. You think, oh, I could have done better than that in 2 minutes. Look at they're using some horrible creative or some sort of web art wingdings kind of nonsense. Your view of an email or a flyer is just not what most people do, right?
Very fair.
And otherwise, no billboards would work and no flyers would work, and they've always worked. And the other thing is, when you go and speak to anyone, I don't know anyone who would willingly say, oh, yeah, whenever I see, I love those. And there are some, right? Oh, yeah, I always keep those pizza things because every once in a while I go through and I get a selection of all the pizzas and all the best offers. That's like a mailbox. And there are people who literally do that with flyers. And so I'm blessed in that I'm able to put myself briefly into anyone's shoes. And the reason I'm able to do that is my head is such a unique space that there's no point thinking that everyone's like me. I just have to know that I have to think like other people. So I go and put myself and I look at my mom, right? My mom will go, oh, that's another pizza thing, right? Now, my mom's never going to order pizza, never. But if she did, right?
She would remember that brand. Oh, man. Yeah.
That's so ugly and it's so true.
This is where I think really the crux of everything we've been talking about is actually media literacy. And that's what I went to school for. And so maybe that's why I'm so hypercritical and extra enforceable of what I know, both the laws, the rules, and the ways of doing things, and why I'm so protective of my own management of both inbox, but you name it, TV. I don't watch TV for a reason. Yes. All those types of things. So really the crux of the issue is actually recognizing email as media. It is nothing more than just an additional marketing channel that happens to be the cheapest. It also happens to be very easily penetrable, which is not great, which is why there's an
it's actually got more guardrails, okay, and more technical limits to email than anything else. Nothing else has the guardrails.
I disagree because you don't have bad actors from, any scammers, you name it, on TV ads.
Really?
Because the barrier to entry is not quite the same.
No, it's cost. Cost is the only barrier to entry.
Yes,
it's like $300,000 to get up there, and it has to go through legal and blah, 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 or $1 million to do the creative and all of that sort of stuff. That's just a cost issue.
Yes, but it is the barrier.
Okay. Here's what you can do on TV. I can put up wall-to-wall gambling ads in the UK. No one's going to say anything, right? Wall-to-wall.
That'd be very helpful.
Oh, guess who's doing it? It's marketers doing their job on TV, corrupting future children and young people and making them future gamblers. Okay?
It's very depressing.
Right, it is. But we're more concerned about someone sending an email without the right permission or forgetting to put the unsubscribe button in the right place or putting it in gray instead of blue than we are over the fact that our job is basically marketing, right? And email's just a channel. And it's no better and no worse than any other channel. And you can do as much bad in it. The person is the problem, okay? So given that I have no bad actor clients, I don't care what bad actors do. And to be honest, I don't know why anyone would care what a bad actor would do unless they were in infrastructure. No.
Well, and I'm referring to
the that's their problem.
The Gmails, the Yahoos, the Outlooks. They're
so
constantly...
why do you care about their job? And by the way...
Because it impacts our job.
No, they're not equally good. This is what the deliverability industry has done really brilliantly. They have managed to persuade the world that every deliverability problem is the marketers. Not so much here. I've never seen anybody acknowledge that there is such a thing, okay, in public as a better ESP than another on deliverability. Clearly, that cannot be true. Okay. And
Correct.
clearly, anybody in the industry knows that, those people are really bad. Their IPs are terrible and this, and they don't do this, and they're lazy, and their team go to bed at 2 a.m. You'll hear it from a salesperson saying, oh, well, my deliverability is really good. But here's the thing. The industry gives all ESPs and every MTA a pass as if they're all equally good at deliverability. Ergo, deliverability problems are the marketer's problem, by definition. So they've thrown it back onto us. So what's the first thing that happens when you go, oh, I've got a deliverability problem? Do you know how that call goes? It hasn't changed for 25 years. Oh,
there's a lot of
you're
variables.
sending the inactives. Oh, you're doing that. Right. First of all, the first thing you should do is take a list of only your first 500 actives, go really, really slowly. You're sending 1 million a day, send 500 today, 550 tomorrow, 600 the day afterwards, blah, 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 blah.
Well, I would fire that deliverability consultant because they should be, of course, looking at the primary sources of DNS.
No, but why would a big brand like my clients not have that fixed? Right? So the question is, who are these people? Again, that's a once and done thing.
Okay,
it's a once and done. It's not a lifetime. I have to come for my deliverability fix and pay $15,000 a month for the rest of my life to get into the inbox when I do everything you tell me to do. And when there's a problem, the only solution is stop mailing your inactives, mail more to your actives. No one ever says anything different. Never.
There are some exceptions, and I know I'm being provocative towards you, but there's pushback because a lot of these deliverability experts have ins to the postmasters to be like, hey, this is legitimate.
No, a lot of these deliverability experts don't want to do their job, right? That's like saying, my job is garbage man, right? That's my job. My job is to clear the garbage every day. And I spend my whole life lecturing you on putting too much garbage out. No, don't say, listen, the reason I didn't take your garbage is because you didn't do this, or you didn't wipe it down with Lysol before you put it out, or you didn't do this, or you didn't do that. And by the way, you put it out at 2 a.m. and the sun was above this horizon and it should have been that. They don't do that. They just do their job, right? And so when you say to a deliverability person, hey, I've got a problem, and the problem involves only you, okay? They will never tell you, oh, by the way, every one of our customers had the same problem last week. They're not going to tell you that. They're not going to tell you.
That's a bad deliverability consultant then. No. But I understand.
They don't. And I'm talking about the big consultants of the ESPs. If you go to an individual private consultant, but you go to an ESP.
ESPs don't have the consultants.
But they say they do.
Well, that is in and of itself a false equivalency.
And the industry allows them to get away with it. Right? Let me tell you how we could fix that. If we just did a deliverability chart by ESP, right? Deliverability would no longer be a marketer's problem in a heartbeat. If we said, do you know something? If
I want to make sure
use this platform, let's pick 2 platforms.
Okay.
Mail Hippo's got the best deliverability team in the world. Mail Rhino's got the worst deliverability team in the world. And I'm able to show you that on average, 40% or 40, you've got percentages. It's not a rate, it's percent. 40% of your list is in spam with Mail Hippo, right? Mm-hmm. And 60% with Mail Unicorn or whatever it is. What are you going to go with? You're going to go, I'm going to go with that one. So if you had the chart, I mean, it's like kind of like all the things they say for EV, like battery life and stuff like that. Yeah. Sure, they would all like to pretend they all had the same battery life, okay? Right. But actually, the reality is not true. And also, the battery life they claim doesn't actually match your real life experience of doing it. And that's kind of like how ESPs are. So the point about totally is fair. The ESP's deliverability job is to not have a job, right? So everybody is totally clean. I don't have to do anything. I go to bed at night, safe in the knowledge that if something happens, I can blame the customer. Wow, I would like that job. And by the way, when they get it wrong, it messes the entire ecosystem. So I know why they do it. Don't get me wrong. But that's why I pay you.
Right.
I don't pay you ESP fees.
I would always advocate for an independent consultant, but because they know.
I know, and I always say none of my clients ever had deliverability problems. And people say you're irresponsible because your clients, and I go, no. Well, I'm speaking to my client base, right? I don't care who listens to me. Why is it my response? And I don't mean that in a bad way, because anyone with sense listening to me will know what I'm talking about. And the other thing is I have more traction with business owners and stakeholders typically than I do with the marketing the email marketing department. And so I view my audience as marketers who send email rather than email marketers. And the reason is the indoctrination, and I don't mean this in a bad way, I include myself in it, okay? I've been offering this for 10 years.
Right.
Go read my newsletters. I've done 50 alone this year, covering everything from deliverability to everything. Go do that. If you can find anything that you can disprove empirically, I'll buy you dinner anywhere in the world. No one's ever been able to do it because you can. The only way you can do it is to do a survey, right? Put out a little survey and say something like, what is it you don't like about my campaign? Do you see what I mean? Send it to 500 people, get an answer, and then say, oh, well, there's your proof, right? But you cannot show me 1 million people that you sent the same email to every week, right? And tell me that you didn't do better than when you only sent to the 200,000 most engaged. Do you get what I mean? And something else. You just can't beat me. But also, it's hard. Why I said how hard it is that even if you believe me and you're the email marketing manager, you're going to get pushback all over the place. So all you can do, right, is do it as well as, right?
Yeah. Do it as a control experiment with a certain group.
Correct. And by the way, now here's something else about testing. Have you noticed how you can only test things that people say you can test? There's an Overton window in testing, right?
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. Subject line length. You've done enough. What would you test for subject line length?
Well, I always
How many characters beginning?
My preference is no more than 50, but you can test different character lengths for sure.
Okay, how about 200?
Often shorter is better.
How about 280?
I wouldn't recommend that, but
it's a test.
Yeah, it is a test.
That's what I mean. There's an Overton window in everything, including testing, right? We just can't allow our brain to think of something beyond what's considered to be correct, right? I've tested 200 plus.
And
I've tested 3. I've tested 55. And this is what happens when you look at the large numbers, right? I have data for all of this in charts, and maybe another time we'll go and I'll actually show charts to prove it. But I took millions and millions of subject lines that I pulled out of, I think it was eData source, okay? I broke them down by length, 0 to 5, 5 to 10, characters going all the way to the other end. You got lists either side. It was almost U-shaped curve. Do you know where the lowest point was? 40 to 60 characters, which is exactly where everyone is. So the point is when everyone does the same thing with monotonous, boring reality, anything outside of that looks different and makes a difference. So what happens is you start up there, very short, oops, ow, blah, 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 down, 40 to 60, up, back up to about 300 characters, 200 characters. And by the way, length is not about characters. That's another thing. If it was about characters, you could write a subject line in wingdings, and a short one will do better than a long one. So it isn't. It's about meaning. So what's short? It's about how many propositions or concepts you can put into the subject line. Okay?
Yes.
So you have a single proposition subject line, sale today, right? You have a double proposition, sale on today plus free baseball cap, right? Triple proposition will be something else. You can put 4 propositions, 5, 10 propositions in there. It's super hard to make a single proposition long, and it's super hard to make a multiple proposition short. The fewer propositions you have in, the less meaning you have in. So therefore you get a higher open rate, because the only way to find out what the heck's in this email is to open it, because it says oops or sunny day. And you're going, what the hell does that mean? Okay. Right. Oh, they're selling sneakers. Why did it say sunny day? But I had to open it, right? The longer it is, the more precise it is. The only people who open it are the people who know they should open it, and no one else opens it. So you tend towards clicks if you go longer. I'll give you an example of where you can do.
I appreciate the difference of tracking. I know we don't like rates here, but in terms of recognizing where on that curve it will improve.
Yes.
So for opens for the short end potentially, and then clicks for the longer end.
Correct. And you can get super short in like trade titles and things like that, or a fashion thing with lots of SKUs. Okay.
Of course.
So if I said to you, and I sent you my weekly newsletter, and it says news on Google, Meta, Exact Target, Salesforce, blah, 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 I could put 20 in there, and I could put one word, and you would know exactly what was in the email, right? But you'd find it very difficult to do it if no one knew what you were talking about, right? So the one word requires a lot of knowledge and how much so if you're a brand and you can put Nike, you can put this, you can put perfume, you can put single words to mean a lot, and you can get multiple propositions into the subject line, and you can't the other way around. And that's something else I've thought a lot about. So subject lines work on lots of different ways, and the article that's coming out tomorrow is actually called "Why Subject Lines Matter More Than Opens," because
that's valid. Yeah.
You don't have to open an email from this brand that says great deals in store this weekend, and you drive past it, you go, oh, hey, they got great deals in store, I'm going to go in there, right? And you would never put those two. So there's your attribution thing again.
Yeah.
As you put those two things together, and it's like, oh, okay.
That makes sense. And so just to kind of bring this all together, we've been viewing the inbox as a data layer rather than just a campaign tool. So if your email list is your behavioral capital, then what actually is the platform? Is it that holds your list? Is that just your data warehouse ultimately for this specific segment of data, or what more is it?
That's where you're at, okay? It's who you are, what stack you've got, and everything else.
So depending on your maturity.
Yes. And also the other thing is when I advise people, I tend to start with what they've got because that's the quickest wins, right?
Yep, of
Rather
course.
than where they could be in 5 years' time and everything else.
But the roadmaps are so fun.
I know.
You got to start somewhere, of course.
You do.
What ultimately is the platform like that holds your list? So your ESP or your data warehouse, like what does that mean?
To be honest, I don't really care. What I care about is can you connect this with that, right? And the best way of doing that is to make the UID company-wide the email address, right?
But there's so many issues with the UUID being an email, depending on the platform and what you're offering.
That's why you need to know what you want to do. But if you already have a platform that doesn't do that, what's the point of me coming and saying you've got to throw away a platform and start again when you want a solution for this holiday season, right? So the way I look at it is actually, as I said, it's the right to mail somebody, okay?
Yes.
That's the first thing. And also the trackability and the audit trail that comes with that message that you know went to a particular person with a timestamp and you know all the downstream behavior behind it. Now you feed that back into your CRM or everything else because that's information that you're now trying to pull out of GA, right? You're trying to get that data out of GA and say, where did they go? Oh, well, they won't tell me that. Or what happened that? They won't tell me that, right? So if you actually took that as your current source of information and said, not responding to an email is really as important to me as responding to an email, right? Because it's a data point. So, for example, you may find that this person not responds 3x and then responds 2x, right? That's the pattern you're looking for. You're not saying, so you're not optimizing for that single email. I always say what people do is they act as if every email they build is a singular, unique event that was not impacted by anything that happened before and cannot impact anything that happens afterwards because an email is dead, gone, done, but, and that's just plainly not true. So you have to focus on that. And if you do that, you're actually, wherever your data resides, you're actually bringing in a super, super level of insight and value and highly, very, very strong signals, right, back in. Mostly people do it the other way around. They'll go in and they'll pull out a segment of people who some AI or something told them will be most likely to buy, and then they'll say, go and send them a special email and personalize it and blah, blah, blah. And they go and tell email, send this email that looks like this. So that's a one-way thing. What I'm trying to get is like a circular thing, a virtuous circle, right? So
well, that's where potentially AI decisioning actually fits perfectly into play of what your idea here is.
Yeah, the problem with AI decisioning in any platform and everything else is the first time I heard this was with Sun Microsystems back in about 1991, right? And I sat down and Sun Microsystems told my client, oh, we've got this new CRM system, right? It's going to come in and transform everything, blah, blah, blah. And it's got a server, it's got blah, 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 and all of that sort of stuff. And the client went, oh, does that mean I'll be able to personalize every message to everybody? Now, remember, we're talking about like 92. Guess what the salesman said?
Scared to know.
The minute we have every record on the list up to date with the correct job title, telephone number, address, and everything else, we'll be able to do that.
Never ending.
Ergo, Until that, we
Never.
won't, and that's never going to happen. And I think that's the challenge with data is we're
Yeah.
so busy trying to we make perfect the enemy of okay, right? And I think
Hmm.
I want to move faster on the data piece.
That
Um,
makes total sense.
and I don't ever consider myself to be a technical expert, right? But what I do consider myself to be is someone who just understands how tech works within a business and what the cost implications are going down this route and that route, right?
Yes.
And that's why I'm such a fan of email. If you get that working, it's such an amazing thing.
It's sure true. So, kind of segueing into the greater industry at large, not only are these platforms profiting from your very own messaging, you've also, of course, written marketers pay to generate intent and then pay to,
To
again, to
buy them back.
reacquire it. Yes. So, what is the takeaway for CMOs? What is the top down leadership? What do they need to know in order to break this cycle that is clearly ingrained and entrenched amongst all of us?
I think probably the first thing is look at email the way you broadcast, TV in particular, right? Measure it the way you do. Very few people put a TV campaign on and count how many phone calls came off. I mean, if it is, you specifically design those campaigns and it's like, call this number now, all of that sort of stuff. But most TV commercials are sort of kind of brandy. You know
Lighter
what I mean?
touch.
Yes,
Yep. Brand awareness.
but whenever the commercial comes on, more calls to the call center, more people visit the website and everything else. No one goes, "Oh, that wasn't TV," right? They go, "Of course that was TV." And the more you spend on a channel, the more likely you are to attribute unknowns to that channel.
Mm.
Okay. So if email, you're spending $100 a month on email and $1 million a month on search, any unknowns go to search because you look stupid if they all go to email. So that's I'm a
Okay.
cynic.
So then I am too a realistic cynic
Yes.
and optimist at the same time. But as we're thinking through this, is this an opportunity for companies to start reclaiming their data advantage from Google and Meta and maybe spending less
It's the
there?
only way.
Okay.
It's the only way.
It's an uphill battle.
No. It's just they're doing it anyway, badly, by mistake, unintentionally, and the ROI is so high, it's hard to fail, right? That's the problem with email. You have to be an idiot to fail, really, or do something really bad. And if you do, it's a once and done. You'll never make that mistake again because it's so painful. So I think that's really what the issue is. Unglamorous, okay? It's
Right.
just a workhorse. It's not new. It just works. And you send the email, and the other thing about it is it's unique in that everybody and their mother and son and daughter and everybody else, their dog, has a view on email, right? They don't on TV. Right, if I went, oh, I work in TV, they'd go, oh, wow, TV, oh, that must be really exciting. Or if I said I worked in whatever it is, I work at Meta, oh, wow, Facebook, oh, that must be really cool. Email, oh, you're the spammer, right?
Yeah.
That's everybody. I have a whole host of stories. Here's my funniest one. We're talking maybe 2007, 2008, right? So I get into Denver, and this is back before Google Maps and everything else. You remember when you go and hire a car and they gave you a printed map and you're driving in the dark in a town
Oh
you've never
yeah.
been to, right? So I
All
was
right.
doing all of
MapQuest.
that. So I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'll get in a cab. Actually, it wasn't Denver, it was Chicago. So I'm in Chicago. I get in a cab and I'm heading into town. And the cab driver goes, Russian lady, very thick Russian accent. What do you do? I said, oh, I'm in email marketing. She says, I never look at that shit. It's just nonsense. And I'm like, a Russian cab driver who hardly speaks English, knows nothing about marketing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she was the top marketer back in her day, but she felt she could tell me about my business. So the CEO, and I also joke about this, the worst thing that ever happened in email was when CEOs got iPhones. They're like, oh my God, look how ugly that is. I can't believe that looks... Right? When they all had Blackberries, they didn't give a damn. They're like, oh, that's fine.
I still miss my BlackBerry. I'm not gonna lie. I was a BlackBerry girl through and through.
Me too. You're showing your age. But yeah, I mean, so everybody has a view. So when you go to a dinner party, and my wife used to get really mad at me because I would sometimes get really cross if someone did that. So we're in there, and someone said at the dinner party says, "Oh, what do you do? Email? Oh God, spam! I can't believe no one reads that anymore, etc., or something along those lines." I say, "What do you do?" They say, "I'm a surgeon." I said, "It must be terrible, all those people having their legs amputated because one of you guys made a mistake." It's like, why My wife kicks
That's
me under
fair.
the table. My wife's
I get
kicking me under the
yeah.
table.
It's the doom and gloom and the worst side of the
No,
industry.
but the fact that they feel they had a right to comment on something that I'm an
Yes.
expert in and they know nothing about, right? Or the level
Yeah.
of their knowledge is the same as me with a
Well,
brain
that's how I feel
surgeon.
about marketing in general, not just email marketing, even though it really is such a deep and rich niche of its subset, and same with MarTech in
So
general.
why are you such an obsessive? It's really weird. I really didn't think you had been bitten that badly, but you really have.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I am that person. I don't know. I don't have the answer just yet. I find it interesting.
So I've really given you a hard time. So by the way, I'll tell you right now, the stuff I'm saying should be shaking you to the core. It goes against so much.
It's bringing in a new perspective that I've dabbled with, but not fully given it the right amount of marination. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot I have to think about, relearn, or reanalyze. And that's also why I wanted to bring you onto the podcast, because there's very few people in our general industry, regardless of if they actually know what they're talking about, that are not just bringing in provocative, to use your word, takes or contrarian takes, but
Mhm.
actually rethinking the same problems, solutions, outcomes from just a different perspective.
Yeah.
And while I have experience in many different components of marketing and well-rounded, my niche was never, broadcast or ad publishing. Have I worked in
Yeah.
those? Yes, but it
Yes.
was never the subset
You
that
see how
I
I
solely
started
focused
there?
on.
I started with
Exactly.
data, right, from the
Yes.
get-go. And it's that visualization that the
Exactly.
newspaper pages were, I didn't have the words for it, were the user interface between the advertiser and the database, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, that's why I also believe the AI war is actually an interface war more
of
than
course it
anything.
is. As much, I agree. We're in a place where everyone's always fighting for hearts and minds and everything else, and there's as soon as we get into AI, I'm a bit sanguine about it. Does that make sense? There are different ways it can be
Mhm.
used. Content, I get it. I get why you'd be upset. It's a bit like, clip art, right? If you're using clip art, it means that's the level of your capability. Does that make sense?
Unless it's ironic.
But there was a time when I would have used clip art because it was at the
Sure.
beginning of the internet and that was actually state of the art. Okay. And for
Yep.
someone who didn't know what they're doing, and it just gets better and better and better. So you just have
I
to
still
improve.
love a clip art moment. It's fun,
But I,
but
and
it's
I
done
but
ironically.
yes, yes. And also, I will notice a poster and I'll go, oh, that's a cheap AI put together. Couldn't they see? And we're getting better at spotting it.
It's getting better and better with each and every day, though.
And human beings get better too. And we
True.
have an endless
Most of the time.
capacity to. Here's the thing, clickbait, right?
Yes.
Clickbait's a very interesting thing. Clickbait wasn't a thing
Correct.
until 15 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
10 years
Really,
ago.
YouTube and news articles
Right.
and
So,
interface
but the word
getting more
clickbait,
of your time.
but it got very quickly to the stage where people would say, just regular people, right? Not marketing people, whatever it is, a construction worker or a nurse or whatever it is, would say something like, "Oh my god, I hate those clickbaity headlines,"
But
right?
you still looked.
No, but the point is, they recognized them for what they were, and they hated
Mm.
themselves when they clicked on it. We're doing that all the time. So we look at it, I go, I know that's fake, and I'm going to hate myself for clicking, and I know I have to click it because the algorithm has completely got me, and I'm really sick to my stomach that happens, but I've got to do it, right? The next time, you're probably slightly more prepared, and you'll be harder against it. Do you see what I mean?
Of
Or you'll
course.
say, I'm not even going to look in that place where that can happen to me.
Yeah. And that's where you learn which sources to trust and which brands to trust more.
Yes, but it also
That makes total
shows the
sense.
power of the impression, right? It
Yeah.
wouldn't have come into my mind if I hadn't seen the impression.
Yes.
And with email, I send the impression to you. Everywhere else, you have to go to the impression.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's
It is one of the most intimate forms of marketing.
I'm only pushing back on intimate because of the way you're using it. I agree,
Okay.
but I don't like the way I think you're using it. You're
Okay.
using it like that means it should be protected.
I'm actually not, but I do believe it
Okay.
should be protected. I'm using it it is besides SMS, RCS, which is a whole other conversation, it is the single most close to you. You chose this, and as a result, you have, well, any company should have all of the data around it to customize, and not saying fully personalize, but they know so much about your own behavior and have their own ways of navigating it that it is intimate because it knows you as an individual most of the time, or at least as a segment.
You're saying that as it should. And I'm saying that's not how marketing works, right? Marketing works by making you change the way you think to make something
Fair.
acceptable and enjoyable to you, even when it's to your detriment at times, right?
Yeah.
So marketing is to make something. I mean, otherwise, why would we drink Coke? Coca-Cola. It's the most ridiculous concept, right? It's brown, sugary water that only exists because of the billions of dollars that's spent on making you think it's good.
I don't think it's good, but
No, but it's
come for
enough to
me.
make people the
Yes,
taste
of
and
course.
everything else. And it's when I talk about things, I don't talk about me, I talk about the billions of people who just act that way.
Of course.
So we do this, right? And we're going out there
Mhm.
and saying it's a protected space. So the question is this: what's so special about email that means we should do things in email that we are not required to do on TV? We're not required to do in a newspaper. We're not required to do anywhere else.
I heed the point because I agree with you, and email has the opportunity that other channels don't.
To unsubscribe from, right? And that's the other thing.
No, to personalize, to be that interface that you sign up for
To
specifically.
what end?
I'll give a great example. So I used to work at Grammarly and worked with Drew Price, who I consider the godfather of Lifecycle. He
Yeah.
created the concept of a weekly insights, weekly stats email. That is tailored to the individual, and that's the only email in my entire existence that people demand. If they somehow make it on the inactive list, they get upset
Okay.
because they want to know about themselves. Same with Spotify Year Wrapped. Those are just two personalized examples where I think through people get upset.
But you're also talking about two extremely, I mean, this is classic, you know what, here's the exception that proves the rule, okay? So you're choosing
Fair.
two things that have a billion SKUs, right? That actually are personal entertainment, okay, that come as part of a wider package. Oftentimes you get Netflix because you've got cable and everything else. Oh, please, and they have a completely their own channel to market, right?
Fair.
Let's say, for the sake of argument, you sell refrigerators, okay? How many different ways are you going to personalize your refrigerator email to me, right?
100%.
And should you therefore send it only once? No, I'm saying you should still send at least one a week and up to 3 a week, because until they unsubscribe. Because if they don't, it means that you've gone into that. Oh yeah, it's in there. I know it's there when I need it. I'll come and get it, and it's a brand.
It's really subliminal messaging at that point for the non-consumer centric items like Netflix, like Spotify, like Grammarly. Is that fair? It's the corner case.
So let's say you sell refrigerators, okay? And someone accidentally orders a warehouse full of purple refrigerators, okay? How much time are you going to spend asking what color refrigerator you want, right? How much time are you going to spend asking them anything about personalization? You are going to spend your time making them think purple refrigerators are the coolest thing that ever existed. You're going to pay a ton of influencers to stand in front of their purple refrigerator and make them want to buy a purple refrigerator. Where's the respect in that, right? There's no respect in emptying a warehouse. So if you pretend, because it's email, that you are being respectful, that's not true. It's not true. The best stories are like that. The best, my God, oh, did you know this? Oh, everyone tells stories about Netflix. Did you know Netflix don't have people watch movies? They've got observers. They sit down and write everything that happened. Street was wet, da-da-da. Why? Because watching doesn't actually matter. The subliminal notes that make someone like a movie is because there was a Ferrari in the opening scene and they didn't even see the
product
Ferrari.
placement. Of course. Well, that's like Josie and the Pussycats being one of the best, in my opinion, movies of this millennia, explaining it clear as day for those who can't see the subliminal components.
Yes, I will have to go and watch that. But now,
I am offended you haven't seen it. You will. No. I cannot wait to hear your review. Well, you will appreciate it. It's what probably got me into the analyzing of media of all different types.
I'm going to do it, definitely. So let's go back to, here's the weird thing about subject lines, okay? Subject lines are processed subliminally, deliberately by us. We choose to do it, okay? Subliminal advertising is not allowed anywhere in the world deliberately. It's not allowed because it's so powerful. Every subject line is a subliminal ad.
Yes.
Every single one. Every single one. We process it in a blink, okay? And in that blink, we decide, oh, I know that brand. It's a from. I've signed up or I didn't unsign. I'm not going to unsign. I don't need to do this. It's in the spam folder. It shouldn't be there. Oh, da, 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 da. In a microsecond. We make all of those decisions in a microsecond. And even when we read the email, we skim it in under 0.2 of a second. It's like 0.1 of a second. Yep. Litmus, when they first came out, I know everybody in the industry. I knew the founders. I went to meet them and blah, blah, blah. And they were doing dwell time. And I was so excited because I'm writing newsletters that we'd put our love in, that was full of enriching content to our clients, and our clients loved us and we won awards for the content and whatever it is. And I said, dwell time. He said, we stop at like 0.6 of a second.
Wow.
And I said, why? I said, people are reading, they're reading our newsletter for 5 minutes, right? He went, no one does. The data is so irrelevant after about 0.6 of a second. Almost nobody does it. And they're so weird that it's not worth even counting, right? So this is...
That's me.
automated sublimination of the message, or self-auto sublimation of a message. And that's why it's so powerful. And I guess that's another reason why people don't run around shouting about why email is so good, right? Is because it's basically saying people are so... with love,
dumb,
stupid, right?
Yeah.
But they deliberately take in a message. And what we do is we actually drop the barrier for a split second to process the subject line.
Yeah, you're
because
right.
we have to. Now, when we drive past a billboard or we're flicking through a newspaper or scrolling, do you get what I mean? You can sort of sense what the brand is and go, oh, I don't need to know. Right? I'm not in that mode because I'm here doing this. When you're in your inbox, you're processing messages that were sent to you as a person, one of which might be the one that gets you fired if you miss it from your boss. One of it would be a happy birthday from your mom or whatever it is. And the rest are like, And the final thing I was going to say on that is when you sign up to a travel email, Kayak, Expedia, whatever it is, say suddenly a brand new brand came about. And by the way, they're all the same company.
Yes. At this point, correct.
But let's say for the sake of argument, there was a brand new kid on the block, sign up to my email, right? Ooh, yes. How many emails do you think you're going to get? When you sign up, just tell me in your head how many you think you're going to get.
Depends on which email I sign them up for, because I have a spam email.
No, anyone. I actually don't mind. I actually don't mind. And by the way, do you know why I don't mind? Because the spam email is one that you never transact from. The question isn't how many email addresses you have. The question for me is, which one do I have? Right? And I want the one associated with your credit card. And if I have that, I'm happy days. That email address lasts forever. I've changed mine once in 20 years. And it was a pain.
Well, I have multiple for different streams of use, but I know I'm in the minority. I won't deny.
And you go, oh, I've got one that lets me know that you stole my data. Oh, go away, please.
Yeah, I do.
I know, but I don't.
I'm a watchdog, okay?
Yeah, but I would know anyway.
Yeah.
I don't need to do that to know.
That is fair. Well, on that note, this has been an absolute pleasure of a conversation. Now that we've really conversed and gone toe-to-toe on a number of different things and agreed on the majority as well, who is someone we should have on the podcast? It's upsetting.
Not because of that, because it's not my thing typically. Does that make sense? So, and then I automatically go against contrarian. I look at it and go, oh, why a woman? Do you see what I mean? There's no one wants old men. I know they say that. You try being an old white man and getting a gig now. It's quite hard.
They had a really good couple decades or centuries.
You want Kara Trivonovich. Do you know her?
I don't.
You'll be able to talk to her about the tech part of the business, right? What the big plays are with the acquisitions. Zeta's acquired a whole bunch of different people recently, right? Yeah, so that would be, and I think she went across with the acquisition. So she was at Epsilon, Zeta bought Epsilon, I think.
Yeah.
I may be
wrong.
wrong.
And they also just purchased
Ben, absolutely. If you can get him, he would be like that. That would like, whoa, that would be
I
a big.
will take an introduction.
You could have cut me off. I gave you a few little intros and you didn't take them. So
No, I didn't, because I see the value,
yeah,
and
thank you.
I wish more people could have the philosophical conversations.
Me too.
And so no, I really greatly appreciated the conversation. It was exactly what I was hoping it would be, in terms of really not going at it in a bad way, but we're actually having the conversation, as opposed to just soliloquies and LinkedIn likes and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
On that note,
Brilliant. Okay.
Della, thank you so much for coming on the pod. Where can folks find you? Give all the plugs.
LinkedIn's the best way to find me. I do have a website, delaquist.com. I actually encourage conversations. I learn by talking to everybody and anybody. And there's no person too junior or too senior or problem that I would find uninteresting. And so the best place to find me, believe it or not, is LinkedIn. And I have on there my schedule calendar link so you can book an hour conversation. Anybody can have an hour with me anytime. I either have the time or I don't.